joining, like catching the recording.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I am excited to see some of you here live. I know a lot of you will be catching the recording later. I'm Jen Pollock Michel. I'm assuming you know that. And I am here with two very illustrious guests, Andi Ashworth and Charlie Peacock, to talk about their book, Why Everything That Doesn't Matter Matters So Much. Oh my goodness. I love the title, by the way, because I feel like we've gone to like really short, abbreviated titles, the one word title. And I'm like, yeah, just put a sentence, in your title, The
Yeah.
Way of Love in a World of Hurt. Welcome.
Thank
Yeah,
you. So
thank
glad to
you.
be here. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Well, before we get started on our formal interview, as we were chatting leading up to the recording, you said that you had a stack of books that you were working through, Andi, and that you had a pencil next to that stack. We talked about how I also rarely read a book without a pencil in hand, which I was telling Andi and Charlie that I also have been rereading her book, Real Love for Real Life, forgetting that for some reason I must have lent out my copy, couldn't find it on my bookshelf. So found a friend who had it, borrowed it from her, and forgot that it was her copy and started marking up her copy. And then I was like, oh no. And then dutifully got my sticky notes out.
I love your sticky notes too.
I know.
Those are good.
My daughter gave me these for Christmas. They're like, I don't know if you guys can see them. They're like little literary figures.
I love them.
I actually am not sure who this is. This might be Emily Dickinson. I'm not sure. But anyways, so tell us, Andi, what's on your stack of books?
Oh, well, let's see. Okay. Well, I'm thinking of one that's also by my bed. It's called Salty. Have you heard of that one? From Alyssa Wilkinson?
No.
Lessons on Eating, Drinking, and Something from Revolutionary Women. That's a great one too. But I've got a Louise Penny. I've got Nancy French's book that just came out called Ghosted. I've got what's the Rilke book that Letters to a Young Poet, because my 20-year-old granddaughter and I are going to read that together. I've got a friend of ours, Leslie Bustard, who has passed away about a year ago, but her Tiny Thoughts That I've Been Thinking. And what else do we have? I have The Covenant of Water. I have
Lisa Jo's
book. We've got Lisa Jo Baker.
It was Weeping. God Gave You Rock and Roll, or God Gave Rock and Roll to You by Leah Payne.
Dr. Leah Payne, who once upon a time in her life before she was a PhD was our assistant at the art house in Nashville. And now she is a scholar and a writer of many amazing historical books.
What is this one? Still Lives?
Still Life.
Or Still Life.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know the author. So that's just a little smattering.
Okay. I love it.
Some you're
reading them all at, I was like, are you reading them all at once?
Some are on waiting, and then
what do you guys do? I think maybe it's like you start all of them and then one of them wins out.
Yeah. And some of them you just say, that's the one I'm usually, it has to be a novel or a memoir that I'm going to read one all the way through. And then lots of nonfiction kinds of books that I'll read in bits and pieces.
Kind of pop in and out of.
Yeah.
Wow, we could have a whole chat about reading habits and reading lists. And
sure.
that would probably entertain most of the people who are joining this, because I feel like I have written a lot about books. I love books, and that's why we're here to talk about your book, Why Everything That Doesn't Matter Matters So Much. But I do want to just start by having you guys introduce yourselves. And I did ask for you to tell us something that we couldn't find out about you through the internet. I always think that's kind of a fun question.
That is a fun question. And it's a hard question.
That's really, true, because
if you've been writing for a lot of years and you have a lot of pieces to be found somewhere on the internet, they've probably written about a lot of parts of life.
Mm.
But you want me to start or you
Mhm,
want?
go ahead.
Well, I'll just start with I am an author and I have 2 books, and then I have 2 books that I have contributed essays to, and then just as I just said, lots of writing essays that you can find all over the internet. I keep journals, and I've been keeping journals since my little boy was 4 years old, and he's now 43. Is that right?
Or,
Mhm.
yeah, almost.
And so that's been a big part of my writing life too, is just these journals of history, of personal and family and friendship history and world history, and just, archiving, but also reflecting, and also kind of bringing in the times that I'm living in, and friendships and people who've come through our home. So all of that kind of stuff. Journaling is a big ongoing through line for me. Chuck and I together started a nonprofit called the Art House in Nashville in 1991. And that started as a place, an old country church that became a gathering place, and then became our family home, and then became a recording studio, lots and lots of music made, lots and lots of people came through our door. Children grew up, grandchildren came, all of that was happening in that place. And we lived there for 24 years. And then at this point the Art House kind of nonprofit movement there's one in Dallas, Texas, and there is one in St. Paul, Minnesota, run by Troy and Sarah Groves. And kind of the little tagline for those is creativity for the common good. And then what else?
We'll get to you.
Well, I'm a gardener, and I have cooked a lot in my lifetime. And so the things that maybe are on the internet, maybe not, but I love water. I am a water baby. I love to swim. I love to sit by the ocean. I love to sit by a stream. I love to be anywhere near water, especially with a book in my hands. But I really love to be in water. And let's see, that's just a really happy place for me. And though it may not look like it, just looking at me, a 68-year-old woman with my oldest grandchild is 20, but I love to dance, and I'm terrible at it. Just terrible. The most awkward. But one of the very happy things that I love to do is dance the electric slide with my family and my friends. And I mentioned this one year as I was speaking at a retreat at Lady Lodge. And that evening, before I knew what was happening, they had turned on Janet Jackson's song Escapade, and I led the whole company of retreatants in dancing the electric slide.
Nice.
At Lady Lodge. So
Nice.
yeah, there you go.
I don't know if we could find out that story from the
I don't
internet.
think so.
that's
I don't think
that
it's
is
there.
an exclusive right here.
That's right.
I do have, it's wonderful to meet you, Andi, and I do have a book project to suggest for you for your, down the line. I do think you
Okay.
should publish a cookbook. Have you thought about that?
I have thought about it for years, and then just yeah, I even have notes about it. But thank you for that. Yeah, more I think of it in terms of maybe recipes and stories kind of thing.
Yes.
Like,
Mhm.
yeah, that is something I would like to do.
Yeah, I would like that.
Yeah,
I'd
Your
buy
greatest
that book.
hits.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, so wonderful to meet you, Charlie. Let's hear from you. Tell us about
Okay.
yourself.
Well, I am, someone asked me the other day, I was working with a writer who is working on a bio for my next book and recording project. And they were interviewing me, and they said, well, you know, you've done so many things. What would you say that you are at this point? If you had to just pick one way of describing yourself. And I just immediately said, well, I'm an artist. That's what I am. And so people know me more for music, but you know, I've just been making since I was a little kid. It was a way that I made sense of the world, and also a way that I was affirmed. You know, and as with anything, whenever you're affirmed in it, you know, you're thinking, hey, that'd be a good idea to repeat that. You know? So, yeah, so I've just been, you know, a maker in a few different vocations, whether it's writing or music or fine arts or you know, just things like too. I mean, along with Andi, made a home out of an old church, you know, and turned that into a studio complex. And so I like building things. I think my building days are over at this point. But there was a period of time, 30 years or so, where I really loved dreaming up things and making them come to life, you know. So the world of the imagination is where I spend most of my time, and then determining in some ways, like what I say is like, what am I going to bring out into the open? What am I going to actually invest in and create? Because it's not just I think it's sometimes people don't understand that for people who are vocational artists, it's not you're just sitting around on your hands waiting for inspiration to drop in your lap. You know, you already know there's a zillion things you can make. Then it's about determining, you know, what you're going to invest your time in and what you're going to make. So for me, I loved your point that you made about, you know, tell us something that we can't find on the internet, because obviously as a public person, I mean, there's a, you know, there's so,
A lot of your life is on the internet.
apparently you can find out what my net worth is on the internet.
Oh, I don't look that stuff up. So
Oh no,
they
that's
have
a terrible thing.
yeah, if you're a public
That's for
person in any
anybody.
sort of way, there's just like ridiculous things, you know, our former homes we lived in, whatever it is, you know. So, and this is just when you have the teeny tiniest bit of, you know, public notoriety, you know, let alone the Taylor Swifts of the world. So, so for me, when I read that, I was like, you know what's missing from the internet, from all of this information, you know, that you can go out there and get on me, is a lot of it that's missing is what I truly love. And also what's missing is my failures. Right? Because most of the information, if it made it on the internet, then it was a story that someone wanted to tell, put me in the best light. So as I thought about that, I thought about something that I love so much that you won't find on the internet is I love to be with my family. I love when we have family events. I love nothing more than getting together with my kids and grandkids. I love going to my sister's house. I love hanging out with her family and our family, and cooking together, enjoying a meal together, and just talking and visiting. We come from a family that visited. Another way to describe it, other than you know, you visited during a meal, and then when the meal was done, you went out in the backyard and you put chairs in a circle, and then you visited some more. And when I was a kid, I lived in a family that welcomed visitors. And so I spent a lot of time around adults and listening to adult conversation. And I really think that's
Mm.
it's kind of heartbreaking to me that there are some people in life that don't get to, experience that. But that's definitely something that I love. And also you'll never find on the internet that I was ever fired from any music job. But in fact, I have been.
Mm.
Yeah. So those
Any,
kinds of
any,
things.
any juicy stories there you want to tell us? Or
No, nothing
just generic?
contemporary. Yeah,
Okay.
nothing contemporary that anyone
Okay.
would know about. No, fortunately, I haven't been fired from anything in about 40 years. So,
Okay. That's,
Oh, well, you're doing okay then.
yeah. You're doing pretty well. Those are wonderful openings. It actually makes me think to the way that you guys talk about the artful life. Because I think what you've both described is the kind of artful life that you've been making together, and individually over the last years. And so I'd love for you guys to kind of expound on that idea, to talk about why that language feels really resonant with you. What does it mean? What is an artful life? Can anybody lead it? And I'd also love to know your models, people who inspired you very early on, or maybe continue to inspire you now to lead that kind of life.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys pinch each other and decide
Okay.
who goes first.
I think Andy's going to pinch me to start.
Yeah, I'm pinching him to start.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think what would be helpful to listeners is to first know that when I use the phrase artful life, I'm probably in the context of it, I would be giving listeners some clues, right? And so the clues that I would give is that it's an invitation into the mind and the heart and the way of making, the way that artists perceive their world and perceive their work. And so, so to invite, if you're a school teacher and you're not a vocational artist, what I'm saying essentially is that, is there intentionality with everything that you're making? So are you asking questions about it? Are you wondering what it could be? Are you asking what your deficits are and how you need to grow to achieve what it is that you imagine? So that's just a tiny introduction into the mind of the artist, right? And so it is to kind of invite you into that imagination first, which is a life of just asking a zillion questions about a zillion things and exploring. So it's having an explorer mindset, a scout mindset. Are you, when everyone's wondering, should we go east, west, north, or south? You're the person who goes out, right? And says, hey, look, I went north and it's all clear ahead. It looks good. In fact, there's a lake out there. Let's go in this direction. So that's kind of the function of the artist in society. So part of this is an invitation for everyone to have a little bit of that mindset, right? And one of the things that it does is it works against fear and moves towards freedom. And in that freedom, people are allowed to grow incrementally. So you say you're fearful about something, you take that one step. Oh, no one got hurt. Wow, something good happened. It reinforces that you can take those micro risks. Artists are taking macro risks all the time, right? So the artful life is just, at first, it's an invitation into this sort of micro risk, getting out of your comfort zone, trying things, seeing that it's okay, that the world didn't end, and that you made something, or you met someone, or you risked something in some way. You changed your living room around, after you'd had it the same way forever, and you were okay. And in fact, you really liked it. And even you decided, you know what, I'm not going to buy that. I'm just going to make it myself. Right. So it's first a mindset. And then the idea of artful, which is to be full of art. So to me, what you're asking is that will you be a person who lives a life that is full of meaningful artifacts?
Mm.
Will you leave, or will you create in your presence and in the presence of your community, and then leave to that community meaningful artifacts that tell a story about the life that you led? And of course, we want it to be a good story. So those are just the first things that I would tell. I mean, I could riff on that for an hour, but that's the first invitation, and Andy can back that up with something.
Oh, well, I'll make a summary, which we've said this before. The creative life in Christ is a whole life. So it is coming from this place of who we are in our image bearing.
Mm.
And that just goes out into the whole of our life. It is all these things that we are making, from making families, making memories, making food, making good smells as people enter a household, making a mood in a room, making a mood at a table, making a birthday cake, making friendships. You just take this making thing and you take it all over the place. You make a safe space in relationships for us to be safe with each other. And that can be in any kind of a relationship. It's the belonging that we make when we create our rituals and our traditions for, children to have a place of belonging and to grow up into. It is such a big topic, and that's why it really can go outward to any human being, because we all have this capacity to say, what can we imagine that we could make within our own gifts, within our own setting, within our own space, within our own people, and what is that? And then take in it, and it's so often just the smallest thing that might even create a memory that would travel through time, and go generations and be important, an important place of love remembered, and then goes forward into another generation. So that's the way, that's a little bit kind of bringing it to a place where anybody can kind of pick up and take that into their own lives.
And I think aspirationally, with the book and with just our work, our ministry to people, is that what we hope that people pick up on is that the division between the artist as the creative one or the imaginative one. We hold artist as a vocation, but we definitely want to dissolve that gap there and have people understand that the calling for all people is to a creative life. And so we're all responsible for the world that we make. And that's what this creative life or artful life invitation is really about. It's ultimately about faithfulness.
Yeah, I don't think we apply often enough that idea of creativity to faithfulness, which I think is what you guys are kind of both
Because
getting at.
it's been hijacked. The whole word has been hijacked.
Ooh, say more about that. How so?
It's just been hijacked. I mean, on one hand, it's just been set aside for the sort of crafty people and the artistic people and people whose vocations somehow, for whatever reason, get to be called creative while others don't. So that's one part of the hijacking. And then another part of it is just a lie. It's just that, where because that artistic creative wall has been built between the sort of us and them, then the them people are just feeling like, well, yeah, I'm not the imaginative one. I'm not the creative one. It's like, I'm sorry. I mean, you can't fall in love without imagination.
You can't stay married without imagination
No, you
either.
can't. There you go. There you go. Way to finish the sentence.
Yeah.
That's so true. And I think the exploratory nature of the creativity that we're talking about, that we're applying to life, and the risk of it, I think can be scary for Christians particularly, especially when we kind of assume, well, yeah, like there's this roadmap. I mean, we've got scripture,
Yeah.
we've got the saints, we've got models for us, we've got the commands of God. And even within that framework, gosh, loving God and loving neighbor is infinitely creative according
Yeah.
to our context. And I feel like you guys have even, I mean, I feel like your book is naming how, as your contexts have shifted, so too has your kind of creative faithfulness in the context of your life. So you had the art house iteration,
Mhm.
and now you've moved into a new season. I know this wasn't a part of the question that I was asking you, but that I had sent to you. And by the way, that's kind of how this conversation will go. We'll
Yeah,
just
Oh, we're good.
great.
organically.
We're
I think you're
rolling. Yeah.
probably pretty good at conversation, having hosted thousands of people around your
Yeah.
table. But speak to that a little bit, speak to us about creative faithfulness. That's also very seasonal. Maybe you could take us to some shifts in your story. And maybe it's related to shifts in physical health, Charlie, because you talk about that in the book, or
Mhm.
just shifts in hospitality, Andi, because you've understood the artful life so much through hospitality, but now it's a different season. So maybe just take us a little bit on the journey of the evolution of creative faithfulness.
Yeah, it's a time of different kind of limitations now that have
Mm.
both opened up. For me, it's opened up more of a writing life because it's much less responding to people coming to my door or needing to be fed or, you know, all of those kinds of things. Now that is more friend and family oriented more than it used to be. It was just so much bigger before that. So creativity, creative life is oftentimes going out towards our grandchildren, or for me, to our grandchildren. Like I'm spending time in the kitchen doing bakes with my two granddaughters, and I'm writing. And, obviously, this book, as we were talking about in the beginning, a book it's such a long thing. It's
Mhm.
the writing for the deadlines, but then it's also the writing and the living and the thinking that you've done in all the years before that. And then it's deadlines, and then it's marketing and all that stuff. And so this is a time that in our life we have been able to focus more on that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But also for me, I mean, there are things that I bring with me wherever I go. I'm a gardener. I'm gonna always have some flowers going, even if it's just a pot.
Mm.
Even though our place is much smaller and the gardening space is much smaller than it used to be, but that's a through line for me. Writing is a through line. People, relationships, that's a through line. So I'm going to be always making room and being intentional about the making and the keeping of relationships. But and right now I'm actually feeling a little bit like I have some relationships that I want to tend, but I'm not quite able to do it just yet because
Mm.
of, the book process is such a large ongoing responsibility. So,
Mm.
yeah, that's a little bit in the new shape of life post art
Mhm.
house.
Mhm.
Yeah, for me, we were just talking about this last night, that I have gotten myself too busy again, and I don't have any margins right now. And so that'll change, we'll have to make a shift again just for my health. I'm definitely starting to just, so those of you who are listening who haven't read the book yet, I have a neurological disorder, so I have to tend to that and just be careful with how much stress I put myself under. But I do have several projects going right now that while not all of them are very stressful at all, it's just it's what we in our family call too muchness. So it's reached the, the level of too muchness. So hopefully some of these things will, their intensity level will go down, and I'll be able to adjust again. But yeah, would you add anything to that, what I said? I wanted to add something to what you said.
go ahead.
That another cool thing that Andi does in this time of life is that once a month she meets with girlfriends from some that you've known for almost 60 years,
Yeah,
like
the earliest
55 years.
one we met in second grade,
Yeah.
and we're all 68, well, and 67 or 68. So yeah, we were very close friends, best friends growing up. And then during COVID, we started getting together on Zoom, as many people did, and checking in with each other. They all live on the West Coast, and we've just kept that up as a regular thing now since 2020. And we have made that just like it's an immovable thing now. I don't think we'll ever stop doing it, but has been a beautiful part of our lives. And to know people from the time you were a little girl, to know everything everybody went through in their home life growing up, all the way through to Medicare and beyond.
To Medicare and beyond.
And beyond, that's right. Yeah, that's been a beautiful gift of these last few years.
I'm very jealous. I don't have that kind of history that I can lay hold of, in my life. I think it's really interesting to hear you guys. I mean, you've kind of talked about it in your last responses, but certainly in the book, like touching on the theme of limitations. And part of creative work, right? And creative faithfulness is sometimes like, risking and dreaming big and then scaling back and meeting limitations and trying to gentle into those boundaries of our lives. So talk to us about, I mean, you mentioned limitations. You said there are more limitations in the season. Talk to us about the good of limitations that you're discovering, the ways you keep fighting against them. And maybe do you wish you'd thought earlier about them?
Gosh, I have to take that because
you take that.
Andi has always thought about limitations.
Well, I have felt it. I have felt them more intensely.
She could write a book about it now, but she's always felt it. I've been the opposite. I've felt most alive when I created the most complexity. Interesting. And, so I think that's just a part of the way, the difference in our brains and the difference of what makes us feel safe. So chaos does not make Andi feel safe. Chaos to me represents an opportunity to order it. So those are two very, very different ways of seeing the world. And I think for a long time I lived in, with without boundaries until I was forced to have a boundary. And by boundary, I mean that this is all an imaginative, creative part of life, you know. And one way to think about it is that in less than 3 seconds, a human being can imagine an idea that will take thousands of people to create over 20 years. That's how powerful the imagination is. So when you live with someone who imagines, in a sense, for a living, and people, applaud and ring the cash register for the amount, how much you imagine, then it can be a problem. And so for me, I've had to work on and examine, why is it not just the imago Dei within me, but is there a part of me that wants to imagine and stay in that space, that imaginative, creative space, in order to not occupy some other space? And the answer to that is yes. Yes. So part of my maturity is to have learned that that I had to wait a long time till my body really just finally gave out and said, no, you definitely have boundaries. You're just one small little man. And, I'm going to use your brain and body right now to show you just, how limited you are and how you need to practice those boundaries now. So when I said that I was, getting too many balls in the air, so to speak, I have to see that that's a warning sign. I have to back up. I have to back up and clear space for rest, like space for riding my bike, for doing urban fishing, which is just something that I just started recently.
Didn't even know there
which
was
is-
such a thing.
Me
Yeah,
either.
well, it's basically finding bodies of water and ponds and little creeks and things in an urban area that no one else will fish. And you go fish there and see if there are any fish in that water. So it's just something fun to do. So if you lived in our neighborhood and you saw me walking with my fishing rod, you'd be like, who's that old guy with that fishing rod walking down the road? And where's he going?
Interesting. I just want to get really practical. How will you, so you're going to make space. Does that mean you're going to have to say, you said yes previously to some things you'll have to say no to? Because I think a lot of times people are like, what do I do when I'm in an overfull
Yeah.
season?
So
How do I get out of it?
Yeah. So the key to it is that you have to stop caring what people think about you. Right. So you have to care more about your health. And the reason you're caring is because of faithfulness to God and for your family. So there's a hierarchy of, in a sense, who you're giving your allegiance to. So you may admire, love, and work for some other person, but they may not be in your immediate family. So they don't feel the repercussions of you coming apart as much as those closest to you. So it's an act of love, even though it's difficult to go to someone and say, hey, I'm really sorry, but I just can't deliver this project on this date. Which is something that's incredibly difficult for me to do because for issues of pride or whatever it might be. But yeah, you have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to say, you know what, I'm sick, I'm not healthy, and I need to say no. And it's going to be okay. And if someone has a problem with it, that's their problem and not mine. But for someone like me, it took me a long time to get to the point where I could actually exercise that without wanting to go back on it and reverse it and say, oh, sorry, I said that. No, I'll get it done. Don't worry about it. Should have never said that. Yeah. But no, now I'm much more apt to just simply say, look, I don't feel well enough to to do this at this time, or we need to change our plans, or anything like that. I mean, I feel completely free to do that now. That took a long time to develop, years to get to the point where I could say no to something and be okay about it. And it wasn't so much that I was, just sort of obsessing over what somebody thought about me. It was just more that how I perceived myself. It was about self-perception. I perceived myself as a closer. I perceived myself as, when everyone else had given up, it's like, call Charlie, he'll get it done. So when you perceive yourself in that way, then of course you don't want to be the person who says, no, I can't do it.
Right. Yeah. What would you say, Andy, about gentling into your boundaries and limitations and what you wish you'd known earlier?
Yeah. I think in our before life, let's say that.
Before what then?
I think of life in terms of before Art House, then 24 years of Art House, and then so far 8.5 years past.
Okay.
So if Art House is the one that is just so full of people and family care and guests and, all of those kind of things, but people it is a very major component. And then the after, which is now, limitations that I feel that I longed for back then was because the people care thing and anybody who's raising a family or has a lot of responsibility for how the family is being cared for. And then you keep adding things on top. Somebody else from the outside adds things on top of that you don't choose. And there is just a natural place to say, hey, I've got a lot going on. I've got a lot of responsibility already. Plus, I have other things that I care about, which for me was writing.
Yes.
And, so all of that. And those are the places back then that I would long for. I'm an introvert. I need some privacy. I need the boundaries of just, that I'm a human person inside of all this giving. I actually have my own needs, and some of my needs are privacy. Some of my needs are, I want at least one day in 7 to be a very other kind of day. I need some playfulness. I need some just fun friend relationship time, whatever it is. And then now limitations feel very, they're more physical. We both have a lot of chronic pain. So even as we were, for me now, the challenge is because I have a lot of back pain every day for most of the day. So to be a writer inside of chronic back pain and to get to your deadlines and, it's the limitations are there, but I don't necessarily have control in this time with this responsibility of saying, well, I'm in too much pain now, I gotta stop. And but still, I do have to get to a point each day where I say, okay, that's really all I have. And now it's not fruitful for me to sit and try to bring words out of my head and onto paper for anybody to see, because it's really pushing against reality for me, which is I don't do well past a certain time of, late afternoon into evening. I'm not, especially at this time of life, to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. I can do it some, but I don't want it as a lifestyle. I want to be able to stop and say, God, I trust that you are God and I am not.
Mm.
And I will trust you that I can sleep and that I can wake up in the morning and that you'll give me more tomorrow. So that's where I like to set my compass, and I've always kind of wanted to set my compass in that direction and have to some degree at different seasons. But not I guess I'm just trying to say the challenge of that doesn't go away
Mm.
with age. If if you're continuing to do some of the things that you're called to do that are, you know,
Well, if you
Mhm.
go outside, I mean, you go
Mm.
outside your front door, and you start interacting with other people, they have their own schedules, they have
Mhm.
their own challenges. And so
Yeah, we all
I
have them.
think,
That's the
I
thing.
think that's, if we just keep a closed system, we're only interacting with each other inside our home, then that's a lot more controllable. And it
Mm.
makes sense of why, particularly when people deal with chronic pain, that's one of the first things you do is you sort of try to, like, how much of this can I control? you know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that's why people withdraw, because all you got to do is just, like if we went to a speaking gig this weekend, right, in Indianapolis, right? Well, the minute we step out that door, right, there's just going to be one thing after another that we don't have control over. So I
Yeah.
think, so part of what I hear Andy saying is that we're in a period of time where it's still mixed. There's a lot of things that we we've written this book. We want it to do well. We want people to receive it and be able to read it, and we want to tell the story of it because
Mhm.
we believe in it. And other writers, on the show here will resonate with that. We many of us, we write for very deeply personal reasons,
Mm.
but we also would love for people to enjoy what we've written, and we're no different. And so we're going out, in a sense, going out from here, reasonably controlled environment into, the world of marketing and promotion and all of that, where things are a lot less controllable, as you know, and you've written well about it. Um, and so anyway, we understand that. And so that's why I love what she said, that it's just, yeah, the tension is not erased.
Yeah.
We're still living in it.
Mm.
And we are
Mhm.
seeing
Mhm.
just kind of knowing more often when it's right and good to say no, to just
Mm.
say, no, it's just not a season for us to do that. I mean, like
Mhm.
traveling is something we say no to more often than we ever say yes.
Yeah.
And that's because it's just like it's a hard reality, but it is a limitation. But then we have this wonderful thing called the internet, and we get to do what we're doing with you
I
today,
know.
which is a wonderful thing. Yeah.
It is so wonderful. And, just this whole conversation about limitation, I feel like you guys have touched on limitations that are like imposed upon us, by circumstances we don't
Mm-hmm.
control and we don't choose. But then also limitations that we do elect, like I won't do X,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have freedom here to say no. It's interesting. I was just having a conversation with one of my college age kids about this, to encourage him to, and now I just outed him because I have 3 college age kids, 2 girls, 1 boy, him.
Yeah.
But to encourage him to kind of set some boundaries around a particular situation. And I was trying to give him some language about that. And I said, well, I think you could, I think it would be very reasonable to say, I can't, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, but I can, like if I stay up late or if I, do all
Yeah.
of these other things, like physically, probably I could make it work. And I said, well, then the harder language is, but I won't,
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
choose not to. And
Yeah.
then the fact that like someone, because it generally we're talking about people and their expectations and their desires and sometimes their demands and sometimes their very reasonable needs, and then to be able to to find the courage, to maybe say like, not only I can't, but like I choose not, or
Yes.
just I won't. And then in the context of all these limitations, I feel like you guys have said so beautifully is trusting God, that he made the world, he is sustaining it by his very word. And so if I can't or won't, that doesn't mean the work isn't getting done.
Yeah.
And I love that I feel like you're really tracing that in the book.
Mm.
This kind of like arc, I think that is very familiar in life where, we're all we're all sort of dreaming big, and then we meet limitations and we meet hurdles and have disappointments, and then we have to kind of grapple. We have to like incorporate that into our scheme of reality.
Right.
Kind of what you said. And that's what I think is so beautiful about this book, is that we get to sort of tap into some lived wisdom. And I also think, this is real wisdom here. This is how do we make sense of the complicated realities of life? I'd love for you guys to talk about the ways you're leaning towards joy. I've heard you both kind of name it here. I've heard you name it in the book, but where you're kind of giving yourself some freedom to choose joy. I think that feels to me like a certain kind of learning, but I'd love to hear you talk about it.
You go
And
ahead.
maybe in creative work, relationships, life with God, any of those areas.
Yeah, for me, I would say that I've found a lot of, or I've experienced newfound joy by having more kind of standardized practices in my life. And that goes back to what I said earlier about how, I really enjoy organizing chaos, right? Well, yeah, there's nothing predictable about chaos, right? So the only thing predictable about that is the need to organize it. So the idea that I could have practices that were predictable and that they would bring me joy is something that's new for me. So that's why I say it's newfound. That so I start my day every day. It started the same exact way, right? So I keep a book of common prayer next to my writing chair, and every day begins with Book of Common Prayer, various aspects of it, and with the first prayer that I pray is the Lord's Prayer, and that's it. And then as I sense that there are other things that are on my mind, I'll extemporaneously pray for those things. But that's how I begin every day. I've always had prayer in the morning as a practice, but not in that particular way. Not in just, it literally is like I will not open my laptop. I will not touch anything else until my day begins that way. So that's been, I don't let anything be, I don't let any, or anything so-called urgent or, any sort of crazy making circumstances or individuals come into that. I don't even really respond to Andi. We've had times where we've both sort of looked at it like, not now, kind of, no, I haven't started my day yet. I can't interact with you about this. So that's a practice that has really set the tone for my days and been very helpful, and I think increased my joy a lot. And then the other thing for me is just spending time with my children and my grandchildren. and having them interwoven into our lives. I spent most of my adult life being a pop-in dad and a pop-in grandfather. And the great thing about popping in is that it's sort of like, you can always sing the 3-minute hit song, right?
Mm.
And it's like, and then you pop out, right? And that, in some way, it's sort of like you set the tone for your relationships with your children and your grandchildren. But you're not doing, you're not singing the hit song and the dirge, and the funeral march, and, all of these things, right? Like the parent who's in it, and in this case, Andi, who's in it for all of it, right? And so I love this part of life. It gives me so much joy to be so much more plugged into my children's lives. We stop work all the time just to be with them. We have one sporty grandchild, and every sporting event that he's involved in, we're at. And that brings me a tremendous amount of joy. And I would say another
Unless
thing
it's track.
for sure.
Does he run track?
Oh gosh, please. We could go on for hours about that.
I'm
You
gonna
can
get the
get that.
door.
Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. We could go on about that for hours about like where we're like, now, is he still going to run the 400? Like what is going on here? Like, will someone please announce what's happening? Yeah, no, we totally get that. I tell you, another thing that's incredibly baffling is this football, like it's, not in between seasons, it's called 7-on-7 or 7-and-7. And it's only
Yes.
7 players on each side. Well, anyway, that's just equally confusing. But nevertheless, we're there, and we love the hang. And then I would say, Andi and I getting to spend so much time together.
Mm.
We've always been together. I mean, we've been together for 53 years.
Yeah.
So we've always spent a lot of time together, but we just like each other a lot. I mean, we have our disagreements, and as you probably
You're
have already
saying this while she's gone.
you've
so
already
she-
picked up on the idea that we're very different people,
Mm.
wired very differently. You can hear that in the book and
Yeah.
and see that. But at the same time, we're best friends, and we enjoy each other's company a lot.
Mm.
Let's see. And then I'd say one final thing on the sports tip before Andi comes back
Okay,
in,
good.
is that one of the things that brings me so much joy, except for the other night, is Warriors basketball. I'm just a huge
Oh.
Steph Curry fan, and I
Mm.
love watching him play basketball. That brings me a lot of joy,
Mhm.
except for the other night, like I said. And for those of you who don't know, they lost their potential to enter into the finals. So they're out for the season. So
Okay. I didn't know that, even though we have a basketball player in our family. But I guess he's just not watching the Warriors. I don't know.
yeah, well, there are a lot of other teams, not for me, but there are a lot of
The
other
Bulls.
teams.
I think we can watch a lot of the Bulls, but
Yeah.
we could talk about track and basketball and football all day. But Andi, just in closing, well, I'm going to ask you guys one more question, a lightning
Mhm.
round, I guess.
Oh,
But
okay.
joy, just joy. What's bringing you joy?
Joy is to me in the small things. It is reading a great novel. It is watching, like right now, as the flowers in my garden begin to bloom little by little by little, I begin to go out and visit and really pay attention to, oh my gosh, this one is blooming again. And and I get so much pleasure, so much joy out of watching the beauty of the flowers unfold, and then the birds begin to come and the bees begin to come and take their place. And as the summer wears on, I feel like God has given me this little space, but to be a haven for all the interwovenness of the way the creation works with, and then I get joy out of, I turn usually in the afternoon and go for a walk with my neighbor. And we have become really close over the years of our life here. And she's the friend that is like a sister to me. We just tell each other, like, what are you cooking for dinner? And, we just tell the details of the day. I get a lot of joy in the writing process. Not so much in the after process, but in just like when you sit down and you begin something and you say, and you find out what you're writing about by writing, that is a very joyful place for me. That's the best part of the writing process to me, is that part. Yeah, and of course, there's the times of being like Chuck. It gives me incredible joy to be to see who this next generation in our lives is becoming, and how just the kind of people they're becoming, and spending time with them is just really fun. Talking to them is really fun. All those things are joyful. Friendships, family, getting to, walking around. If I just take a walk in the neighborhood and somebody says hello and I stop and I talk to them for 5 minutes, I get filled up by that. I feel better about life.
That's how you know you're an introvert. Because
Yeah.
you only needed a small dose, right?
Yeah.
I'm just laughing because I feel like you guys are like my husband and me. I'm more Charlie. My husband's more Andi. And he's like, yeah, 5 minutes. I've met the neighbor. I'm good for the week, in terms of socializing.
Yeah, I actually do need more than that.
Yeah,
but that does
you
give
were.
me something, it gives me something.
Yeah.
It makes me happy. Yeah.
Well, just the lightning. I want you to kind of give us your elevator pitch for the book. And I want you to frame it like this. What is urgent? What was urgent for you about this book? What continues to be urgent about it for you as you offer it into the world?
I think the urgency for me is, I really care about telling honest stories about being human and about vocation. And so I only have my one life to talk about those things. And so that's a lot of what I've done in there, is just tell stories of the years. But I really care about this topic of vocation, because I think it frees, once you understand that vocation is not just one job or one task, but it really is the whole shape of your given life under God. And as a friend of ours says, it's the deeper, truer, longer stories of your life. So, the threads that come through, that were there when you were a child, when you were a teenager, when you were an adult, that are there when you're in your 60s. There's some things, that we can probably name at different times, like, what are the things you cared about most? What are the things you were doing? What are the things that you love? There are the people. There's the vocation of people, and that looks different. That has a different shape for all of us. And so all those things together are what I consider, and I love to think of it as the given life. And so much of it are the threads of life are things I would not have dreamed of or known that God would give to me and to us when we were just getting married at 18 and 19. But that now I can look back and I can tell some of those stories. And I think in the telling of the personal stories is always usually where many people can find themselves and find their place of valuing their own stories and their own lives and their own life with people. And so I think those are the things that I am concerned about when I write.
Mm-hmm.
to tell true, honest stories
Mm-hmm.
about the struggles, but the joys and the realities, and coming to understand calling just little by little by little by little,
Mm.
that one little faithful step that you don't even know is a faithful step, but you follow those breadcrumbs and you do the best you can as you pray and try to discern and step into big things, sometimes just one little tiny
Yeah.
moment at a time. So I write
Mm.
about a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. A lot of lived wisdom about
Mm.
that. Thank you.
Mhm.
What about for you, Charlie?
Yeah, the urgency for me really never changes. And so it is the driver behind the book. And that urgency is care of the world. And by that, I mean care of all that Jesus loves.
Mm.
And then inside of that, that means care for the church. And then inside of that overall is caring for what those who don't yet know Jesus perceive what it means to be a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my major areas
Mm-hmm.
of urgency and care. Um, so obviously, I've written in the book in some ways that are more, narrative, but a little more didactic in terms of, a teacher speaking. Um, and part of that is because I am deeply concerned with, um, are we really modeling for the world an accurate picture of what it means to be a disciple of Jesus? So I asked that question of myself first to try to understand,
Mm.
you know, where where have I gone off course? What have I misunderstood in the scripture, or even just in terms of the history of the church? Any study of church history is going to show you that we've gotten as much wrong as we've gotten right. And, so there's no reason not to think that that isn't happening exactly right now in our lifetimes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we are, in a sense, living the history of the church right now. And so we are responsible, free will agents in the midst of that. And so what are we doing in terms of the story that we're telling in our personal lives? And then how are we communicating that outwardly to others? What does it look like to them when they see our lives? Does it look like
Mm.
the life that we perceive that we're living? I mean,
Mm.
in our, I mean, no one sets out to, if you're a disciple of Jesus, no one sets out to live an unfaithful life, right?
Mm.
But without
Mm.
something of an examined life, um, who's going to know? And
Mm.
without living in community with others, you know, there won't be anyone to help you or correct you, or to see other examples of it. you know and then for us, we have many people in our life, multi generations of people that we look to as we see as exemplars for what it
Mm.
means to be a disciple of Jesus. So we keep them in the forefront of our mind in terms of what we think it means to be a follower of Jesus.
Mm.
So that's stewardship, which to me, again, is that's what it's about. It's about, this is sort of like, hey guys, this is Jesus talking. This is what I left you in charge of. Right. And I'm trying to hear that. I'm trying to say, oh, okay. Oh, okay. So you left us in charge of that too. All right. Okay.
Mm.
All right.
Mm-hmm. That is a wonderful, even a surprising element of the book for me was just to think about how much, outward facing kind of orientation it is. It's not just, me and my life, and my, here,
Yeah.
but just kind of like thinking about the world,
Exactly. I mean, and
the
that
world that
was
Jesus loves.
the the evangelical failure of the Jesus as personal savior movement. Not that that isn't true, because of course it is.
Right.
But that once that got reduced to, in a sense, a brand, right, and a slogan, and it became so small, it just got smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Instead of expanding outward from this amazing thing, if Jesus was your personal savior, and you're that
Yeah.
personally involved with Jesus, then that
Yeah.
would mean that you are personally involved with
Mm.
extraordinary things,
Mm.
right? That go
Mm.
way beyond the common purview of a human being on earth, right? Now we're into like
Mm.
gigantic, cosmic kinds of consequences. Well, most of us, we don't live our lives as if we have cosmic consequences, do we?
Mm. I feel like you were literally reading what I was kind of noodling on this morning and writing about, but which is makes me feel that we are participating in this larger conversation that
Yeah,
has been going on, for
it's been going
millennia.
on forever. Yeah.
For millennia.
Right.
Well, I want to commend your book to our listeners, to the readers of my Substack, and I'll be posting this interview, Why Everything That Doesn't Matter Matters So Much. I've already said I love that you got a whole sentence for your title, basically.
Right.
The Way of Love in a World of Hurt. And it is a very honest book. And I think it's a very hopeful book. And I think we don't manage that tension very well, honesty and hope. But I think you do a
Yeah.
really beautiful job. So
Good.
it has been a pleasure to be in conversation with you today. Thanks so much
Well,
for giving us your time.
Thank you, Jen. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks
You
so
keep
much.
up the good work.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
I'll end the recording and then, say a few more words.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I was about ready to end the meeting. It's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. See, this is where I get in trouble because Abby Murish